good evening, everybody. This is another session of Free to Heal. We want to welcome you guys. We're here where we come together every week to try to get rid of, to address the ravages of mass incarceration. We're formerly incarcerated, loved ones, children, anybody that's been impacted by the criminal justice system. And we come together every week so that we might heal our wounds, heal the trauma, and be productive citizens and be a support system for each other. And so we've been very blessed to be doing this for a while. We actually have been doing Free to Heal for a year now. And October makes 1 year.
Wow.
We did it a whole year. And so I'm thankful for all of you guys that join us every week. I encourage you guys to go look at the videos on YouTube. We post them so that people can see this and get the healing that we're getting. And tonight, what I want to talk about is self-evaluation and self-valuation. Okay, so now
Can you say that again?
Self-evaluation and self-valuation. How you value yourself. The self-evaluation is taking a stop.
I just want to make sure I heard.
Make sure you heard it right. So for those people that's listening, what we're talking about is, first of all, you need to assess yourself. You need to evaluate where you are. And one of the things about self-evaluation is that it requires a couple of things. It requires courage, because more often than not, we find things about ourselves when we start examining ourselves that we're not all that happy with, right? And if we're going to do an accurate evaluation of who we are, we got to be willing to look at those things for what they are. And we can't filter them, because what tends to happen is people start to go into blaming other people. Well, I wouldn't have done this, or I wouldn't be this way if so-and-so wasn't this way, or if society didn't treat me like this, or this, and that. I wouldn't do those things. Well, the challenge with that is that it doesn't allow you to begin to do those things for yourself that will allow you to heal. So you gotta have the courage to look and see what's really there, not the person. We've talked on here about our self-concept, and our self-concept starts with what we would like ourselves to be. But to be effective, we got to deal with who we really are. There's usually a gap between who we ideally would like to be and who we actually are. And where the work is in the middle to get those two to come together. Well, when you're evaluating yourself, you got to be able to evaluate what's good with you and what's not. You want to pick up your strengths and your weaknesses. But if you're only willing to look at your strengths, your evaluation is going to be incomplete. Your evaluation is not going to give you the full picture of who you are. My mother had a saying, and she used to say, my mother had a saying for everything, quite frankly. But one of the sayings that she had is, sometimes you got to see yourself as other people see you. And that requires you, though, to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. It causes you, it also, self-evaluation requires you to be willing to be uncomfortable about what you see and move beyond your comfort zone. If you do the same thing the same way all the time, you're going to get the same results. You're not going to do the same thing and expect that all of a sudden, miraculously, it's going to produce something different. So if you're looking at yourself and you're evaluating yourself so that you might become, you might want to make some adjustments. Now, listen, it's not to say that somebody can't evaluate themselves and like exactly what they see and feel like they don't want to make any changes. That's possible too. But more often than not, when we look at ourselves, we're going to find something that we would like to change or adjust. So, but you got to be willing to be realistic about that, and you got to be willing to be uncomfortable. Because that is where the growth comes in. I found that as soon as I stopped blaming somebody else for the pain and stuff that I was in, the sooner I was able to heal. I was able to begin to heal myself from the wounds that were actually self-inflicted, because those are the ones that cut the deepest. Because when other people, you wouldn't let people get close enough to you to really do you a whole lot of harm, not intentionally. But when you harming yourself, it's so much easier to fall into that routine. I have lately been noticing people who, and I think we touched on this briefly a couple of weeks ago or in previous sessions, about people who make their trauma and their hurt their identity. And it becomes everything about them. They focus on it all the time, not realizing that whatever you focus on, the law of attraction of the universe says whatever you focus on is what you're going to bring to yourself. So as long as you're focusing on trauma and hurt and things that somebody did wrong to you, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have more trauma, hurt, and more people doing things to hurt you. Even it's one of the reasons why when you have a traumatic situation, like people coming out of the military that are hurt and things, one of the things that clinically that they will ask you to do, try to get over depression, is to begin to serve somebody else. Be of service to other people. When you begin to be of service to other people, what happens is you take the attention from yourself and you get to see other people, and then you feel good about that. And before you know it, you're focusing on what's good, and more good begins to come to you. Because there's no mystery to it. There's no secret sauce to how to get over depression. You got to stop focusing on whatever that is that had you to be depressed. You know, I see you shaking your head, Mr. Tillman. What you thinking?
Hell yeah. Hell to the yeah. I mean, I fought depression a lot in jail, you know, just being in there, man, just people forgot about you. Your mama don't see your birthday cards no more. And that's depressing. You could be the bravado person who you want to be up in there, but inside and who you were on the street, that's what gets you that depression aspect of where you at. You know what I mean? On the inner, it's not the outer, it's not the exterior, it's the inner. So, and I
don't
like
want to go off topic, but you said something that really sparked something else that just came up recently in a conversation, and that with a lady that I met with, and that was how people incarcerated feel and often are forgotten, particularly when they have very long terms to do.
And feel forgotten. Look, we be forgotten.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, they feel it, and it actually is true, right? That people,
yeah, hell yeah.
You know, like maybe they down for the first year or two or whatever, but over a period of time, people fall off. And a lot of it is not that they forget, it's that life be lifing.
It's not on purpose. It's not personal.
It's not personal, but it feels that way. But you're still hurting.
Their life is continuing.
Right. And it's moving forward, it's progressing, and they got things to do. I know a lady, she was doing fed time because she got caught with her boyfriend driving with him doing some drug trafficking or whatever, and she was out of state. Well, her family didn't have the money to actually go to fly out of state to go visit her, and for whatever reason they didn't write letters or anything. So for the 5 years she was down, she literally had no visits, no letters, no anything, and she totally felt scarred from being what she felt was forgotten. And so it's very difficult for people. I bring it up because I wanted to make the point that even though it's like nobody's communicating, it's because a lot of times because life keeps moving on, and people have to keep moving. And I don't condone it. I'm just saying that that's one of the things that happened. But that I just had that conversation just yesterday, Terrell, with somebody about being forgotten.
And it's the thing about it is like, it's not personal, because even your loved ones will do it. You know what I mean? So it's not like, oh, she ran off, and, you know, baby mama ain't tripping. They living their life. You know what I'm saying? And that's just respectable. You just have to understand that as a human being, person life gonna continue to go forward, and if they ain't carrying you around in their thoughts every day, you're gonna be forgotten in the aspect of their everyday normal living situation and things. And the thing is, when life is life, and you don't know what the hell. So you ain't, furthest thought from you is somebody that's been in jail 5-10 years already, you know?
Right, not because you don't want to, but because you don't have no more bandwidth. You got a million other things running through your head, and you know that you got to take care of, and all those kinds of things. Cheryl, did I see your hand up in the back for that? And if so, you're gonna have to come forward so they can hear you.
So I'm talking, I had one of the new ladies with me today, and she was talking about being in the AA meeting. And she said it was so nice to see them after she had seen them in prison in AA, but she saw them out here when they used to say, "Am I ever going home?" And some of them had attempted suicide because they thought they were never going home. And she said, and I told her, when you're able, please say that to them, because that's so encouraging to let people know that they, that sometimes people don't realize they made it through, but they made it through.
Right. They actually did survive it. They did. And so that's important. So, like I said, I didn't really want to go off on a tangent, but I wanted to make sure to bring that up, to let you guys know that, and anybody that may be listening to this or whatever, to recognize that it's not that people just want to forget about you. They only have a certain amount of capacity to do a certain amount of things every day. We got 24 hours in a day, and some point you got to rest. And you see what I'm saying? And some of it has to be rest.
8 of it
right?
has to be rest.
You know,
for your body. In order for your body to reset, readjust, it needs, and I mean not penitentiary 8 hours, it needs a real 8-hour rest. You don't count your first 30 minutes and you don't count your last 30 minutes. In between, you need a real 8-hour reset of the body, because your body, when you're laying down, is realigning itself. Spine, your heart, your liver, your kidneys. Right now, I'm in a joy, but y'all, as y'all know, I'm fighting liver and kidney ailments, but I'm losing weight, so they tell me that I'm improving. But needless to say, you need 8 hours of rest at least. And if you can afford a 2-hour cat nap in the daytime, that'll help you too.
Because the body can't even heal if it's not resting. I mean, it just doesn't have the capacity to heal if it doesn't get some rest time to let things function. But back to self-evaluation, I would like to hear from you guys about the last time you took an inventory of who you are. Oh yes,
me. Let me go.
Wait,
Let me
Mr.
go.
Stephens, he had his hand up first, babe. Go ahead,
Go
Mr.
for it.
Stephens, and then I'll come right back to Lionel.
Mr. Ring, I'm so glad you brought this subject of self-worth and self-evaluation. It's not a secret. I always talk about my upgrowth. I remember as a child, they used to tell me if I didn't be good, the boogeyman was going to come and get me. And the boogeyman, where I'm from, was the Ku Klux Klan. So coming through trauma, growing up through trauma, I felt insecure. And, I grew up and I turned to crime. I started doing crime. I became the boogeyman. And then when I went to prison for 30 years, I had to learn something. And what I learned that was so valuable was that I was worth something in my own eyesight. And so I began to change. So the realization of self-worth is that there's a lot of things that I work on and I try to improve in my everyday walk of life. And one is a religious walk in life. And with that thought, I saw things that I didn't like. And I didn't like the fact that I grew up all alone. And as an adult, I'm all alone. So I'm working on trying to change that. I remember one time we were talking on the program, and I was saying that I had the reluctance to speak to women. And so every time I see someone, I say, "How are you?" Hoping to spark a conversation. So it's improving. And I work on changing this because, life being all alone is a lonely life. And so, I look forward to joining with the opposite sex and have a full-fledged, happy life.
And you know what, the thing about it is very important for you to do the evaluation and put a value on remembering that, just so that you don't fall into the trap of accepting just anything because you don't want to be lonely. So being alone is not necessarily lonely. And being alone sometimes, the key is to value you have a great personality. You are learning how to cook. You get ready to bake us this cake we get ready to tear up. You go right. All these things, you know, you're encouraging, and those things have a value. Those things have a value, and not everybody is entitled to access those things. And you have to, and people that you meet, you have to decide whether or not they are worthy to continue to have access to you, and how much access. Because there's everybody, like I say, when you go into the liquor store, everybody can't afford top shelf liquor. Everybody can't afford that. Some people got champagne money. Some people got champagne behavior. You got to give them limited access, or Cisco, right? You got to give them access only at the level that they need to understand who you are and what your worth is. You have talents and skills and communication that is joyous and all that, and everybody's not ready to receive that. So it's very important to make sure that those people that you give access to you are worthy of the access, and that they also bring something to the table that you can receive from as well, because it has to be a give and a take. That and I'm a giver, and somebody told me when I was young, you're a giver, and 95% of the time you're going to be giving, and that'll be fine. But you got to learn how to receive that 5% of the time to keep the cycle going. Because if I get to that 5% and I don't receive, I got to start over. And so then I get depleted and I never get what I need. So it's definitely a matter of, yes, you don't want to live this life alone. And that's why I'm so glad too that you have us every week, at least once a week. And that's awesome. And we love and care about you. And so that way, at least there's somebody somewhere. But when you let other people, in fact, what you do, you send them to me, let me do the smell test, sniff test, make sure they are all right. Because I adore you, and I just don't want anybody to, get access and think they're going to take advantage. Okay?
Okay.
You were going to say something, Mr. Bradley.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
okay,
sir.
let me start off with this first. I inventory myself every day. I inventory myself when I get upset about something. I say, is it me or is it them? Now it's like now I go back to when I went to prison. Before I went to prison, I had all these so-called friends, so-called family, so-called people or person that posed to love me. It was like I was in a purgatory. It's like I was between death and hell, living, watching people, like you say, move on with their life. But what happened to death do us part? Then what happened to a real friend? A real friend is going to be there for you. They don't have to send you money. They don't have to do anything but probably send you a letter every 6 months. I'm thinking about you. That's a friend. Because you're a friend to them, you're going to understand they might be going through things like that. But people, wasn't never, a lot of them wasn't ever my friend, but I had some to stay down with me. For all them 33 years, I had certain people who stayed down for me. And it was like, I had people in prison reaching out to me through cell phones and all this stuff, trying to help one another. Them was friends because they go beyond their way to make sure that I was all right, and I did the same thing for them. Now, just because you're in prison for 100 years, that don't mean life to stop. Because if you got true friends or true loved ones or true family member, life goes on, because it's like you can help them and they can help you still. It ain't got to be financial. Well, it could be financial by making money in prison and helping people out, because you're thinking all the time. You're working your brain, you're educating yourself. And so to say it's time for people to move on because you're in prison, to me, that's wrong. Because it's like a true friend is going to be there no matter what. And you're going to be there for that person too, giving advice and stuff like that. And so it's like people abandon you because they was never your friend, or they never really loved you, or they use you. And we think I thought they were my friends. I found out they wasn't my friend. And then once I got free, it was like the fella say, the boogeyman. People look at me like the boogeyman that got out of prison. What he's going to do is he's coming after me. because the wrong they felt they did to me. But at the same time, I accept responsibility. I chose the wrong friend. I chose the wrong lover. I couldn't choose the family, but some family ain't your family. But it's like it was all a learning experience. That's why I evaluate everything I do now. When it's hard for me to accept people into my life. I gotta watch them from a distance before I even let them in my life. Or really social. I speak to people. I'll be nice to them. I'll be kind to them. But at the same time, I tell them how I feel because I'm not gonna play that game with no one ever again. If I don't feel right around you, I'm gonna let you know. Hey man, get the fuck away from me. I ain't with this. I ain't feeling you. You know, ain't nothing personal, but yeah, I got to stay away from you because I know who I am now. I'm a person that's ready to explode. That's why I did so many different self-help groups to better myself, to better my anger. I did all these nonviolent communication courses to communicate with other people and to also communicate with myself. And I feel so much better in life that I did educate myself, but I'm still trying to educate myself today. I wanted to come, evaluate myself like I need this to be a better person, to be a successful person, to deal with other people in life, because I know in life you got to deal with other people, socialize with other people. And it's like, I'm not going to hide from the world or hide how I feel about certain things. It's like I challenge everything. If I don't like something or I disagree with something, I'm going to ask questions. Because
let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you a question. I want to ask you, in your evaluations, like when you take those evaluations, because it's inevitable that at some point you're going to say to yourself, well, Lionel, I could have done this different, or Lionel, I could have done this better. So what happens, or what do you do in those instances? Like,
that's what life is all about, is saying that I could have done better. I could have went about different things better. I take other people's problems and say, what could I did to been better at that problem they have? So I'm always looking to better myself, even though it's not my problem. I take other people's problem and make it mine and try to find a solution to it. I don't give them the solution. I think to myself, what can I do better, did different to make that situation better for myself if I was in that situation. So today, that's what I do. I could be at work and I look around. I think about how these people used to go on these work, destroying employees and go in there and kill up everybody when they get fired and all this shit. So I'm looking at all this stuff. I'm evaluating everything in life. I'm evaluating. I'm not too much judging, a passive judgment, but I'm looking how to survive and make my situation better and face reality in life that things do happen. I know I just can't go any place I want to go because other people are going through the situation that who I once was, that violent person, that destructive person. It's like, okay, I know who I was once upon a time. There's more people out there way worse than me. And so it's like I don't think I'm the baddest person. Like I said, there's people out there 3 times badder than me and all this type of shit. So that's why I get that respect, because I don't want to run across a person who was like me or who way worse than me. So like I said,
yeah, you want to make sure that when you do run into those people, the good thing is because you've done your own evaluation of yourself, you can recognize it when you see it in somebody else, and you know what they may be subject to do, and then you can avoid those kind of people, which is very helpful. That's actually very, very good.
While I was incarcerated, doing all this stuff, I seen people say, this person about to snap. A couple of days later, that person killed himself, or jumped off the tier, tried to kill us all, a 5-story tier, tried to kill himself. It's like I see things in people because now, like I say, I not just examine myself, I look at other people, the expression or emotions or how they acting. And I seen the nicest dude just kill himself, jump off the tier. Well, it was like crazy. I seen cellies make suicide pact. I had a homeboy. He didn't have a life sentence at the time. He told me, say, man, I don't see how you can do a life sentence. I'll kill myself. He got out, came back with 3 strikes and killed himself. But after that, the law started changing on the 3 strikers. They started letting dudes out. He thought he gonna be in prison the rest of his life. And so these things, like I say, life is about evaluating, to me, everything that goes on around you, and especially yourself. Because I can say this dude fucked up, but it's really me, dealing with situations, the way I'm thinking and stuff like that. So, like you said, I always evaluate myself before I react or how I think about another person, because they say, look in the mirror and point the finger at yourself first before you point it at someone else. So I'm always pointing the finger at me, trying to evaluate me like, damn, I'm tripping. Because once I started doing them groups, I said, damn, I was a fucked up individual. I was a sick individual.
And they was
so
hard. They was hard conversations to have with yourself too. It's certainly not
no,
pleasant.
it wasn't hard. It wasn't hard because it was true. I was a sick ass dude.
But let me just say, for me, those things that when I had to look and find and uncover them things, it wasn't easy for me initially. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't realize that what I was doing. I get, maybe it wasn't so obvious to me, but it took me a minute to figure it out, and it was a hard day. Like, ooh, the things when you just have to, and it's usually the things that I subjected myself to, and why I subjected myself to them. Not as much as what I did to other people, but as much as what I participated in and why I did it, what I believed about myself that made it okay for me to participate in stuff that wasn't to my benefit. Those were the things that were hard for me. Like for example, if somebody say to me, well, I have a tendency to be very blunt and direct.
Yeah.
And I don't have a comma, no pause, no tact. And if you really make me mad or hurt my feelings, I'm really subject to come straight from the hip. And so I had to learn how to temper that and how to say that, but I had to check myself on that. That kind of stuff wasn't hard because, like you say, I knew that wasn't good. It was more the other stuff. Yeah.
Let me share something with you right quick.
Wait one second, because Tony wanted to say something.
I'm just going back to what you said. It's still hard because
that's what I was about. This Tony, I don't mean to cut you off, but let me say this right quick.
Go ahead.
After 25 years, and I started doing a group. You know what was the hardest thing on me?
What's that?
The hardest thing on me was when I recognized I did an execution style murder and murdered a man, killed a man execution style. Once I thought about what I did when I started going to groups and realized who I had become, tears came to my eyes. I felt so sickening of what I did. That was hard for me.
Okay.
It was hard for me. At the same time, it was a relief because I accepted.
Yeah.
The monster who I was and the sick thing that I did, who I took someone, father, brother, mother, son, away from them. That was the hardest thing for me to accept. But at the same time, I needed to accept that because I was passing judgment on that person. Like, this person made me do it. Just like they said, my environment made. No, that person didn't do a damn thing to me for me to do what I did to that person right there. That was the hardest thing. For about 6 months, every time I thought about that person's family, my eyes got watered. I hurt it because of that. And I always try to stay away from people now, so I won't live that life again or go through that shit again, hurting someone else, innocent person, for no apparent reason, because I was that particular person.
I appreciate you. I really appreciate you being willing to be so honest about it. One of the things I find, something you mentioned that made me think about the fact that I tend to put my own, when I'm facilitating and stuff, I put my own stuff out there so people can do what you say, which is learn from other people's stuff. It's easier, I think, when I'm facilitating for people to be able to see their own thing. It's not as hard to look at it when they're looking at mine, and then they can get something from it or figure out a way to heal it when they're looking at my stuff. And so that's always a good thing that I find, is just put it out there and let people, we can learn from other people. I was the youngest of 6. I learned a lot from watching my sibling mess up. I knew what not to do. I knew what I could get away with my mom. I knew what I couldn't get away with. I knew certain things because I watched them do certain things. I didn't have to live their experience to actually get the benefit of it. you know, and oftentimes people feel like they got to learn it on their own. I just don't agree with that. Learn from other people's mistakes, pay attention. Another thing that I heard come up was when people are incarcerated, that you can still be of value to your loved ones and people on the outside. And it's so true, because fathers and mothers can still be fathers and mothers even though they're not there physically. What they can do is stay in communication. But I think one of the challenges that I see is that a lot of times people get incarcerated and they stop communicating. I don't know whether it's guilt, shame, whatever it is, they stop the communication and then want to come back. And then it's harder to get back in. If you maintain communication with children while you're incarcerated, it's a lot easier to still impart wisdom, love, show affection and caring when you're there. Go ahead, but go ahead and speak up.
Sometimes it's not us, even though we want to keep in contact with our children.
Yeah.
And try to help father our children.
Mm-hmm.
It's the mothers. The mothers got a vendetta against you because you wasn't there before you went to jail. You was broken up with them. You had a kid bomb. Now they got attitude.
Or the caretakers.
The caretakers. But luckily, I had a couple of mothers that actually let me father my boys from prison, because I didn't want them to have the next double letter to come through the door.
Right. Because
I told them, you come through this door, I'm gonna beat you until you leave. That was my MO. So sometimes I feel like it's on the father. And sometimes I feel like it's on the mother. And
that's always true, you know. But in the instances where there's an opportunity to do that, you still have value, is my point. Is that as a person, you don't lose your value because you are incarcerated. You don't lose your value, even though the relationship and the activity and the interaction will have to change sometimes. You don't necessarily lose your value to your children just because you're not there physically. You can still, if circumstances permitted, that you're allowed to communicate with them, that you're allowed to communicate with the mom and understand what they're going through, or help them to understand psychologically a situation, or how to avoid the things in the street. Anything that you can do that you have, because those are talents that you have. There's wisdom you have, there are resources you may have as a person that you can share with them, somebody that you may get to be able to mentor them. But all of those things are still available, and you can communicate them as much as possible, given the constraints, not only of just maybe the mother or caretaker or father or caretaker, but also the constraints of being physically locked up. The prison system, we always talk about the fact that when you have these phone calls and every few minutes they chime in, this call is being recorded. We already know it's being recorded, but just to have a regular conversation is difficult because you keep interrupting me with that same recording that we already know, reminding us of things we already know. And so just the physical nature of it can be very daunting to try to have a relationship with somebody. But I want to make sure we talk about self-valuation. Put a value, and it's not necessarily a monetary value. There's one thing that we know for sure we never get back, and that's time. There is no way to get time back. So if we look at the fact that we have given that we need to do at least 8 hours of rest a day, right? That leaves us 16. So what are we going to do with those days, with those hours? And who are we going to allow access to us during those hours, and why?
And the reconciliation, what I wanted to say earlier.
Can you guys hear her?
She said she said, say it again.
Hard part, like what you talked about.
Yeah.
Killing man, execution style. What you talked about, dealing with your feelings. It's the reconciliation that's the hard part. Having to put your ego to the side. It doesn't matter what the circumstance is. It's all the same. What's hard is the reconciliation of your mind, your thoughts, you reconciling with yourself about what you did, or you reconciling with how you went about it. It is the reconciliation process that is hard.
Yeah, because that means
She's
that
definitely right. She's definitely right.
she
She's
really
definitely
is.
right.
She
And
really
that's
is. She hit the nail on the head, didn't she?
definitely
Because
right.
what you got to
And
do
that's what, yeah. And that's
in the
what I went
instance is
through.
you got
That's
to
it.
reconcile who you would want to be, your ideal version of yourself, with versus who you actually are and what you actually did, right? And that is the hard part. And it doesn't come easy. That's why it takes the courage. It takes being willing to be uncomfortable and all of those things to do that. And it's such a blessing for us to be able to come together and recognize these things may seem small, but they really can help us move forward in ways that we don't even realize that we're holding ourselves back. Because until we do the self-evaluation and recognize where our weaknesses are and what are those things that may be holding me back, I got to know what that is first. I got to identify it. The only way for me to do that is to look at what I'm actually doing. I can't look at you to find out what I'm doing.
And correct the problem that you have not identified.
And acknowledge, right? You can't, I mean, that's the first thing you got to do in substance abuse recovery is you got to acknowledge you got a problem with this, that this is not manageable. You cannot
the
do this.
situation.
It's unmanageable. You know, but you got to be willing to admit that to yourself. And when we do, it gives us an opportunity to heal. And it's like you say, it's like, oh, it's a relief. Right? You felt relief, Lionel, when you finally acknowledged all of that. It was like, okay, you know, I did that, but then you got to feel some relief. And when you were willing to do the hard work to get there. So I just want us to recognize that what are the things that we have. In fact, I'd rather have you guys to tell me, make sure you guys are on the same page with me. What are some of the things that people should value about you?
Doreen,
Yes.
Doreen, when I started doing the work on myself, I felt human again because I wasn't feeling human because
that's
I
deep.
had all that. I was trying to blame the victim, blame everyone else for what I did except for myself. And I was feeling unhuman. And then once I felt that emotion, I started letting out tears behind what I did to another human being. That's when I started feeling like a human again, feeling that emotion of caring. At first, I was like hating everybody. I wanted to blow up the damn world because I was
you know
mad
what it was?
at
Because you was
myself.
really hating you. Yes. That's deep. That's deep. That's good. That's good information for people that I really hope people get to understand that it really was you hating yourself, which at some level had to have been there for you to even be in that position in the first place, meaning that helped it make it feasible for you to then hate this other person or even do what you did to the other person. It was a self-loathing that even put you in a position to say, I can take this person's life.
You don't care about yourself. You don't care about anybody else.
Right. But a lot of times we don't know that. So we don't realize, and we're so busy pointing the finger at the other people that we never see what's going on in us, which is what's generating. And that was what was at the root. And that's again why you had to be willing to look at yourself real hard and reconcile, okay, and then to identify what it was that you didn't like about yourself and what it was and all those things and why you hated on yourself. And that's how you, once you start unpacking all that and even acknowledging that that existed, will take a weight off of you. Even just knowing that that's the case will take a weight off of you. And that's awesome. What I want to do is, because we're already at 7, I want to open it up. Mr. Otis, I would like for you to check out for me anything that stood out to you tonight, anything that's useful for you. I need you to get to your microphone again, sweetie.
My value being good, upright with it.
It's going
Get a little closer.
We can hardly understand you.
I don't live my past. My
there you
past,
go. There you go.
I live my trying to and to help others be a good person.
We can't hear you, Terry. It's breaking up. I mean, it's
Yeah.
low again. You got to come to the mic or something.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
there you go.
Well, you know, I live
And
my
then you must have
values.
moved back to wherever you were, because when you get there where we can hear you, then you go back or something. I don't know.
There's something in the phone. What it is, I go my life as a happy person. I enjoy people, enjoy my life. I look for
You're underwater.
What I'm gonna do is
peace.
I'm gonna have to, because I don't want to waste your time, but we can't really understand you. I'm sorry for that. If we can yeah, maybe you can tell us on check back in next week and see if we
I
can make
think
it work.
phone
Okay,
is
Mr. Hall.
You're talking about self-evaluation?
And valuation, not just the valuation, how you value yourself.
Okay.
And any thoughts, anything stood out to you in the conversation?
It's a very interesting conversation because you have to be honest with yourself. And for me, I try to do a lot of self-evaluation as far as looking at how I can improve myself and just not wanting to go back to old bad behaviors. So I try to always think about that. Also in the valuation part, you always want to think positive about yourself because in the past, when we was thinking negative about ourselves, that's what led us down those negative roads. So I always try to think positive about myself now. I look at the positive things that I'm doing to motivate me and encourage me to continue to do those positive things.
And I want you to make sure that you recognize that because you're doing that and you've done the work that you've done at this point, that there is a value that people should invest in order to even spend time with you. That recognize that you are that valuable and that everybody shouldn't just have access. It's not that you're standoffish or whatever, you stay away from people, but everybody shouldn't have access to you because you have gifts and you have talents, and those things should not be shared with everybody. So I just want to make sure that we all walk away from this conversation with that understanding. And thank you for your check out. Oscar, unmute for us, Oscar.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. No, I hear everybody, everybody had different situation. My situation, I used to be that person like a just people and get angry with people, you know. I used to get revenge for everything. I used to pay attention too much to people. When they talking behind my back, I don't like it. I used to be angry. I still had a problem, like keep a lot of resentment when people I used to help or I do a lot of stuff for them. They don't do nothing for me. I have a lot of expectation, a lot of resentment sometimes because I expect something. Maybe because when I was in prison, all my friends like I help, they abandoned me, That's why I still have those resentment. I saw a couple guys, and since I got released, the one who used to be my best friend, they don't even wanna look in my eyes straight. I look in them really anger. I don't know. I have some problem. Like I always tell straight, no matter what, if I hurt feelings to people, I like to be honest and tell how I feel. But people, they don't like to hear the truth. And that's my problem.
So let me say this, if you begin to value your talents, those gifts that you have, those things that you do for people, and you only do for people that value you, right? You don't give everything to everybody. I'm a giver, and that's one of the things I had to learn the hard way. I can't give at the same level to everybody. Everybody's not worthy, and everybody's not entitled to me to give the same way that I would give to somebody that I really care about. Because what tended to hurt my feelings is exactly what you said. If I oh, he dropped off, but if I just to finish the thought for everybody, if I actually what would hurt my feelings is that if I did for somebody and they didn't reciprocate, or if I did for them and when I needed them, they weren't there, that hurt. It really hurt me. And yes, it would make me angry and resentful. And I had to learn to stop doing for everybody everything. Only do for those people who have proven worthy as well. That was one of my biggest issues, was I didn't put enough value on the fact that I had things to offer, and everybody could, it was like anybody could get it.
You didn't put enough value into yourself.
Exactly.
Everything else
The
took the
rule
work.
that I live by. I get up from the table when dinner is no longer being served.
Hello. Yes.
You can give to someone and they mistreat you or don't treat you as you feel you deserve. You give them that one opportunity and then you move on, because sometimes you're not going to know. But you get up from the table when dinner is no longer being served. If you don't value yourself enough,
Right.
you don't give that other person the opportunity to value. You're making them responsible for how you feel about yourself.
Yeah.
So you gotta let them go.
And what's important, this is the practical step that I learned, is that if I find myself, if I really extended myself to somebody, and then when I need them, or when I would expect that they would extend themselves to me and they don't, I don't even have to have a conversation with them anymore. I don't have to say anything. I just stop doing.
Right.
I just stop my behavior. I don't need to tell them anything. I don't need to be angry at them. The only thing I can say, okay, well, they're clearly not playing fair and even Stevens or whatever you want to call it. And so I just don't give to them anymore.
What's my slogan?
That's right.
You teach a person how to treat you.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And if I want to be treated differently, if I want to maintain a relationship, then what I have to do is I'm responsible to do, like you said, and tell them what that is. And this is what you're going to have to do in order to be able to access my talents, my time, my resources, my gifts, and all of those things. Heaven forbid we talking about an intimate relationship and you want my body. Oh my gosh. You know what I'm saying? You really, the bar is real high for that. You know what I'm saying? But I have to be responsible and value myself enough to say that. So thank you for sharing that. Douglas.
Thank you.
Douglas, any comments for you? Anything stood out to you?
I've just seen the direct correlation between self-evaluation and self-valuation. I like how we do the self-assessment. I've done that for years before as a reformer, finally reforming after messing up for 20 something years. And then and how directly it corresponds with how I evaluate my life and who I am after the evaluation. So, and the changes that came and the adjustments, I kind of like the difference between adjustments and change that you kind of spoke on early on. And I noticed when I make adjustments, it's easier for me to make the adjustments than to make full change. And I noticed it when I take a look back on it, and the change happens, it takes longer, and the adjustments are just noticeable more. And the changes don't really stand out until I finally make a full turnaround. But that's how I look at my self-evaluation at that point. That's all I got.
Thank you so much for sharing. Felix. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, so the one thing that I do when I evaluate daily, utilizing my step 10 is just go through my day, my inventory, see what affected me or what my actions were. And of course, apologize and recognize my actions. But every day, my step is to everything that I do daily is making sure that it's not only benefits me, but it's positive for those that are around me. It's going to affect them a positive way.
Awesome. Thank you. Terrell.
I just want to say this. Resentment is a part of reentry, period. And this is something you might can't relate to, Noreen, because you haven't been incarcerated. But resentment is a part of reentry when you come home. And it can trigger you off when you see those people who you felt abandoned you, or did you wrong, or you had conflict before you left, or whatever. That's a part of the reentry experience. And you got to deal with that because it's inevitable. And in order to come to grips with yourself, you have to know yourself. And you have to value yourself, just like we're talking about, and evaluate yourself. And by evaluating yourself, you see the growth and maturity that you did in prison. Now you putting it to the test out here in the world. The rubber is meeting the road. And you're going to see some people that's going to trigger your butt off, and you're going to have hella resentment from if you didn't get over it, or even if you did get over it. When you see them, it might be that person you said, if I see this mother, man.
On sight.
But when you're going to see him, trust and believe me, you're going to see him. And you might see him more than once. God gonna say, okay, here go. They're going to flow right there. It is going to happen. So this is a part of it, though. And you ain't the first, you ain't going to be the last. So don't take it personal and value your life now, the person that you are now, because that's what it is. And it's like the AAA system. Assess, adjust, and address.
Yeah.
Assess yourself, make the proper adjustments, then address them as you go, but that's what it is. So, and it's like, this is what I do. It's evaluation, constant evaluation of myself, but I value myself now a hell of a lot more. And that's why I'm not accessible like I used to be. I'm not spreading myself thin anymore like I used to be. I can't save the world, and I'm not going to be, when I get to where I get to, I'm there on time.
Okay.
I ain't late no more nowhere, because God will get me where I need to be, where he want me to be there. So, and that's just valuing myself. I know my products. I know what I want in life, in the relationship, all of that stuff. So this is just the process of you coming home and seeing all of the things that you've done in there by yourself, in a secluded cell, in a controlled environment about men, and just being with everyday monotony. Now you out here, and this is the playing field, and you have to keep assessing yourself, keep making those adjustments, keep addressing those issues to become better. And the acknowledgement of it is, you know what I'm saying? So as long as you're acknowledging it, you can work on it, awesome. No matter how bad it was or how whatever.
Good. But Lionel, final comments from you, thoughts?
Like what Terrell was saying, that you're going to see the people that you feel betrayed, like my co-defendant punk ass. It was like, I said, if I get out and he's dead, deceased, I want to go piss on his grave. And I've been seeing him. He's been popping up places, my ex-affiliation people. And I tell the boy, I said, look, motherfucker, you need to just stick to preaching. I don't know why you're around here, stick to preaching. Because I had so much love for this. Let me stop. But, yeah, I've been seeing him. Oh, my God.
And it's just a test. It's a test of your learning and your growth, right? And
yeah, it's a hell of a test. I think it's a test in a way. He got the police somewhere watching. So he gonna trip. He gonna trip. But I'm a different person, better person. I'm working on myself. Oh, that just angered me just thinking about that shit. But yeah, humbly.
We did not, Mr. Bradley. I thank you for your contributions to this conversation. Thank you, Mr. Stephens. Any final comments, sir?
Yes, I'm so glad that we talked about this subject in particular. I learned at the age of 5 that I didn't have a nuclear family, and I disliked it myself for so long. I had tried to destroy myself in drug use and peddling guns and fights and all sorts of things. And so when I came to the realization that, hey, I had to change. I had to start finding out what was hurting me on the inside. What was so dark on the inside that I had to face, you know? When you look in the mirror, you just see the outer appearance, but you have to look in that mirror and look at the inner appearance. Go deep down into the part where it's dark, where the secrets are, and begin to face that reality. And what I've enjoyed so much is that I can come to this program and I can be very honest about who I am and how I feel and what I hope to do. And I want to thank you for that, Miss Lorene.
You are absolutely welcome. It's absolutely my pleasure. Big Sexy, any parting words, Big Sexy? What's happening?
Big Sexy. Until I evaluate every day, I reevaluate, and I know my value because I am a vicegerent of this world. My valuation is based on who I am when I wake up in the morning and who I go to sleep with when I go to sleep at night by myself. And a lot of things, like I tell you, you treat yourself better than you treat yourself. That means love you and love yourself unconditionally. You
awesome.
know?
Thank you.
Peace out.
Miss Tony.
I think self-valuation and self-evaluation will lend you probably some lonely nights because of the growth that it takes to get there, be there, and surpass it. And I've been through the challenge and appreciate understanding what it takes to get to the next level.
Awesome.
You're gonna find out some truths about yourself and just accept that you've changed and move on with your life.
Thank you. And so finally, I want to say the self-evaluation led me to the peace. The self-valuation helps me to maintain the peace, y'all. Okay? Because when I put a value on me, because looked at myself as a business, everybody can't afford this business, and it helps to keep me sucker free, y'all. So that's the goal. Okay, we try to stay sucker free out here and live and do better. Okay, this has been another wonderful, wonderful session of Free to Heal. I hope you guys have a great week. We check this out on Instagram, Facebook, all social media. Please go back and look at some of the old episodes and stuff. Leave us comments, anything that you want us to talk about, bring those topics to us, and we'll see you there. Okay, this has been another good one. Good night, you guys. See you guys.
Good night.